Soccer's really hard. Seriously, there's something about soccer that makes it harder than almost any other sport.
For me, soccer is, if not the most chaotic sport in the world, it is definitely one of the most chaotic sports.
You've got an enormous requirement of endurance. You might have to do a maximum sprint in the first and then also in the 90th minute. So it's definitely on the list of hardest sports.
You do that for 90 minutes? I can't imagine doing that for 90 minutes.
It definitely takes 2 to 3 days to fully recover, but throughout the season, I don't think there's ever been a moment in my 5 years of playing professionally where I've been 100%.
It turns out training for soccer is really complicated. It's not just running and kicking.
With the World Cup happening right now, I wanted to see exactly what makes training for soccer so hard. So I came to a practice with Brooklyn FC, a US Division II professional soccer team, to try a few drills for myself and see exactly how you train for such a chaotic sport.
So Michael lent me these boots, size 11, so that we can try some drills and see exactly how hard this is. I'm kind of nervous.
Specifically, the team's head of performance is going to give me some drills designed for a forward.
I tried to design a drill which involves a little bit of technical work, where you have to be clean with your feet whilst doing lateral movements. Then once you receive the ball into space, a forward player will often try and navigate past defenders, so the poles give you that control. You have to keep the ball close to you whilst also travelling forward, which is far more complicated than it sounds. A cutback pass is typically what a forward would do if they're like going down the wing, and then finishing. And then just for a bit of fun, we threw in a recovery run back to halfway.
I just want to say for the record that I did score one time when we did this drill, but that one's out of focus, so I can use that in the video. I'm obviously still really bad at soccer, but anyway, back to me being exhausted.
Can you hear how hard I'm breathing? So that's just like one part of the game.
That is a quite typical movement style that you find a forward doing. And to think that they have to do that randomly within a 45-minute period, it's very, very tough.
So in a lot of sports, the physical demands are relatively consistent, but soccer does it all at once.
The first and maybe most obvious part of this is the endurance.
You've got to move constantly based on what other people are doing for an extended period of time, and that's really, really challenging, especially for 90 minutes.
And unlike many other sports, or at least other North American sports, soccer players get almost no rest during a game.
Yeah, that is pretty unique. It's a 90-minute game, one stoppage in between, 15-minute break. For the most part, guys are running 12,000 to 13,000 meters a game if they play the full game.
But endurance is just a piece of the puzzle.
It's not an endurance sport in the same way that we think of, let's say, cross-country skiing or cycling or rowing, whereby the outcome of those sports is 90% determined by endurance. The endurance is, if you like, it's just the base layer.
Because on top of that base layer, players need to be able to sprint, stop on a dime, jump, and have surprisingly high upper body strength.
We're not weightlifters, we're not bodybuilders, but it is important to have that core strength, that upper body strength, because a lot of it as well is, you know, you're in duels, you're using your upper body to try and win the ball or shield the ball or whatever that may be.
Playing soccer is kind of like playing basketball and long distance running at the same time.
According to Chris Barnes, over the course of 90 minutes, players spend roughly 60 to 75% of their time jogging or walking. They spend 10 to 20% running at a medium speed, 6 to 15% high-speed running, and only around 1 to 3% of the game in an all-out sprint. But that could happen at any time.
Having to go as hard as you can for such a long period, whilst also having to suddenly stop and then do a complete change of direction and then go again as hard as you can. All these physical requirements are really, really unique for football, especially because the field's so large.
And it's really hard to plan for exactly what will happen during a game. So on top of all of this running, when the players are exhausted, they have to make split-second decisions. Because soccer isn't like a race. It's never as simple as A to B.
Let's look at that 90-minute match again. In order to prepare players for the unpredictable chaos of an entire match, trainers break down the game into smaller pieces, and then players train on each of those smaller components of the game.
If you can kind of cut and paste the really hard periods of a game and then extract the same physical demands into a training session, you're able to then push the hardest parts a little bit more.
Which is why Steph is so exhausted after a practice.
Today's a Wednesday, 4 days before a game. They want to just really push us. Yeah, I would say this kind of replicates like a game.
Michael's able to know exactly how hard to push the players in practice by using GPS monitors.
So the player's able to use GPS units. You can see the demands of each drill for a certain period of time. You can see constantly there are all these spikes, and that is the time at which that player is having to explode into space. And then that helps guide me whether we've pushed too hard, whether we're not pushing hard enough, whether one person's having a holiday and the other person's working. So rather than just constantly scanning the field, I've got numbers in front of me that help guide decisions.
And at the same time, Michael isn't doing the exact same thing for every player.
My job is about trying to push super strengths. So the players have elements that they're incredibly good at, and that's why they're professional athletes. If we were to try and push that down and say, well, this guy might be unbelievably fast, but let's make him slightly slower and fitter, that doesn't really fit the narrative of why they got into this position.
So they develop hyper-specific plans to highlight and boost what makes a player great.
The explosive power is something that I've been working on more so throughout my career. I feel like I'm pretty fit. I can run for a long time. But when it comes to now, it's combining that explosiveness in those moments where it's required.
Billions of bacteria live in a person's mouth, maybe more than there are birds on Earth. Some are helpful. Others, many are behind oral health problems like cavities and gingivitis. So how do you manage something you can't actually see? It starts with a solid routine and the right ingredients for the job. Take stannous fluoride, for example. It helps target and kill plaque bacteria. Plaque can harden into tartar, and plaque bacteria can cause cavities and gingivitis. That's why Colgate Total developed a unique stabilization technology to keep the bacteria-fighting stannous fluoride stable in your toothpaste for longer. The benefits go even further when you pair it with the Colgate Total toothbrush and mouthwash. The toothbrush is designed with ultra-fine bristles to reach deep along the gum line and between teeth, where plaque likes to hide. And when you're not brushing, the antibacterial mouthwash extends protection. Together, they form the Colgate Total Active Prevention System, designed to prevent oral health problems before they start.
And on top of all that, when it comes to the World Cup, things get even harder.
Once we get to the knockout stages of those games, if the scores are tied after 90, then they'll play an extra 30 minutes. So it could be a 120-minute game as well.
The players also get less rest between matches.
In a World Cup, you'll get 3 or 4 days between games. So immediately one game finishes, you're in preparation phase for the next game.
And for this World Cup in the US, Canada, and Mexico, change in altitude and climate could really be a factor.
The game could be in Mexico City 3 days after a game in Miami. So you're going from sea level to altitude. I've spoken with colleagues who are working at one of the countries who are playing a game in Mexico City, and they're exploring the idea of utilizing portable hypoxic machines. So machines that actually will deliver air with the oxygen content that you would experience at the altitude of Mexico City.
Players are also playing with new teammates, new coaches, under the brightest lights of their career.
I'm not an expert from the neck up. I don't deal in psychology, I don't deal in stress. But the World Cup has to be the most psychologically demanding of tournaments that these people will play in. There is so much pressure on each and every person.
Now imagine it's the end of a game. You've basically run for 90 straight minutes. You're the most exhausted you've ever been. You're feeling more pressure than you've ever felt, and you need to remember the strategy and make split-second decisions that could affect the entire game. World Cup matches feel bigger because they are.
My personal philosophy is a lot more that having fitness won't necessarily win you the game, but it will certainly lose it. There's a lot of research that looks at if a team can keep doing the high intensity movements, they're more likely to be successful. At the same time, if they can't kick a ball where they want to kick a ball, they won't score. So I think they go hand in hand.
The best players aren't just incredibly fit, they're adaptable and efficient.
You can't sprint the whole game. It's almost impossible.
And there's a lesson from how Brooklyn FC trains that us non-professional athletes can maybe adopt too.
I think the main takeaway might be to be very specific with what you're trying to do. Anyone can go out and run a 5K, for example. If you're very specific with what you're trying to do, you might find a whole lot more returns.
Do you think I showed promise as a player?
That finish in the first goal was pretty good. Not many keepers are getting a hand on that.
That's awesome. Cut there. That's it.
Thanks so much for watching. If you're not already a member, head over to patreon.com/Vox to get access to more stories, stay updated on our work, and help support ambitious reporting. It's so important to support independent journalism. Your membership allows us to make really cool videos, research interesting stories, and also dig into the investigative reporting. And if it doesn't make financial sense for you to support us today, you can still follow us on Patreon for free and stay up to date on all of the great reporting going on at Vox. Thanks.